Okay, welcome back everyone to our Motzei Shabbos Marathon as we start Daf Pei Aleph, number 2 of 3 blot tonight, and we are sponsored by A.B. Spry and family with the tefillah that all children should get into school easily. We also are learning Nishmas Esther Bas Yoni, Yaakov Chaim Ben Abba Avram Ben Shmuel HaKohen, sponsored by Baruch Ian. We learn the Refuah Shalema for my Shvera Avigdor Aryeh Ben Rivka. We learn the Refuah Shalema for Marshall Castle's brother Mordechai Ben Sora Yehudis, and for Chai Tzipora Bas Rezel. Mark, what's the name? Mark isn't here. Okay. We begin at the new Mishnah on Daf Pei Aleph Amud Aleph. Kosav legaris ishtoi. If he wrote to a get to divorce his wife, v'nimlach, he didn't even give it to her. So Beis Shammai Ayman Pasal Min Hakuna. Beis Shammai says just the fact that he wrote the get, even though he didn't give it to her, is enough to be considered a reyach haget and to disqualify her from kuna. Well, Beis Hillel says, what? Even though he gave her a get, here's a get on the condition that you give me $500 within a month. V'loy nasa tonight, and the tonight wasn't fulfilled. He actually gave her the get. Loy pasum min hakuna. He doesn't disqualify her from kuna. Shalach le Rav Yosef b'reider Rav Menashe midvil l'Shmuel. Rav Yosef, the son of Rav Menashe from Devil, sent the following inquiry to Shmuel. Yelamdeinu Rabbeinu, teach us, our master. Yotza olav kol, if there was a rumor, Ish Ploni Koyin, Mr. Feivel Cohn, Kosav get le'ishtay, wrote a get to his wife. V'yosheves tachtav. Now he's a Koyin, he can't marry, he can't be with a divorcee, and he's v'yosheves tachtav, and she's still living with him, u'mesham shatay, and serving him. Mao. So Shalach Lei, he sent to him, in such a case, Teitzei, they should separate, V'adavar tzarech bedika, and the matter needs to be investigated. Now, at face value, why? It only says that he wrote it, and Beis Hillel says writing it is nothing. So, Mahi, what's going on over here? The investigation is whether we could try to negate a rumor or not. For Narda Asrei de Shmuel, Narda is the vicinity of Shmuel. They don't negate a rumor. Ella, what you should do is you should investigate if they call giving the get, writing it. Because if they call giving the get, writing it, so then if he gave a get, then he can't live with her because he's a kayin. Says Gemara, but even if some people call giving a get, writing it, but they also surely call just writing it, so maybe it meant that the get was just written. So the Gemara says, well, that's not such a kasha. In the imegalia milsa the karl and the sina ksiva, if it's true that they also call giving the get ksiva, we should be chayshish for it and separate them. Don't manosin come, right? So the Gemara says, what? This is a rumor that comes out after marriage. Teitzei, v'amar Rav Ashi kol kala debas in the silin, a mere rumor that comes after a marriage. We don't dismantle a marriage because of a mere rumor. Says Gemara, now it's becoming much more understandable. What does it mean, Teitzei? It means that if the first husband died, and she went ahead and married a second husband, so now this rumor preceded her marriage of the second Kayin, so she has to leave the second Kayin. My Teitzei nami, Teitzei misheni. Says Gemara, but if you make her leave the second husband, that will cast aspersions on the children of the first husband that he was living with her, because the rumor was that he was living with her after he gave the get, and that will cast aspersions on those children that they're halalim from the first husband. Im kein atemisi laz al banav shel rishon. Says the Gemara, well, it won't. Because people will say, you see, we didn't take her away from the first husband. We're only taking her away from the second husband. It must be that he divorced her right before he died. Since we're taking it away from the second husband, we're not taking away from the first husband. It must be that right before he died, he divorced her. Because otherwise, why didn't they take her away from the first husband? Come and see that there was much more spiritual stamina to the early generations than the later generations. Doris Rishayim Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai was able to make it takana that even if he wrote a get, she can't marry a kohen. Even if he wrote it, it's already a reach haget. The Olam was able to tolerate such a takana. Doris Achrayim, Rabbi Daisa. Rabbi Daisa said that even if a woman was captured by goyim, who would certainly molest women, but we say that she's not pasal kahuna. We say that he only fondled her, but he didn't go all the way because he's not going to want to ruin his merchandise. And the Tanya, Shvuya Eicheles Betruba, Divrei Reb Daisa, Shvuya, a captive, a woman that was taken into captivity by Arabs, she could continue to eat truma when she's redeemed. What do you think this Arab did to her? Because he fondled her between her breasts, pasam and akahuna. So even though perhaps they could have been machmir and said since something might have happened, she shouldn't eat truma and she should be pasal akahuna, but the dar wasn't able to handle such a takana. The piety level of the later generations are not like the earlier generations. Doris Rishayim, Machnisin Perisein Derek Traximan, the earlier generations would deliberately bring in their fruit through the front door of the house. The din is that you're allowed to snack from food until it's brought in to the Pnei Abayis. If you bring it in surreptitiously through the rooftop, through enclosures, it's potter, you could snack on it yet. But the earlier generations wanted it to become chayiv and meiser, and they brought it in through the main door. Doris Achrayim, the later generations, Machnisim Perisei and Derek Gagois, they would bring it surreptitiously through the rooftops, Derek Kafifais, or through enclosures, Kedei Lepoitrin of an Amaiser. Dam Rabbi Hanai, Eina Tevel Mischayiv Amaiser, Tevel, untied produce is not chayiv and meiser, even with snacking, Ad Shiyirah Pnei Abayis, until it appears through the front door. Shenema Bi'arti HaKodesh Min Abayis. Rashi actually says from the Gemara in Yoma that we learn out that it has to be the front gate, the front door, because it says in the pasuk Bisharecha. Rabbi Yochanan says that not only if it's brought into the house, even if it's brought into your courtyard, it's already chayiv, and you can't snack. Afilu chotzer kavas, even a chotzer is kaveh. Shenema va'achlu b'sharecha, you eat in your gates v'saveyu, and the achlu b'sharecha, the aniyim who you give to will eat in your gates and be satisfied. So you see, even when it comes in through the gates of your courtyard, it's already chayiv in ma'aser. Says the new Mishnah, Hamegarish is ishtoi, if Chatzkel is Megarish Sarah, and then Lana Imoy Bapundiki, and then he spends the night with her in Holiday Inn. Beishami says, Ein tzricha men get sheni. You don't need a second get. Now, B'pashtus, this means that we're not worried that he slept with her l'shem kedushin. We're afraid that she slept with him l'shem kedushin, and therefore you need another get. But Amasai, when do we say we're worried about this? Bisman sheniskashim and nesuin, when they were divorced from already being married. So she was already comfortable with him. However, but we agree that if they were divorced only from Erison, so they were never intimate with one another, then the fact that they slept together in the Holiday Inn, there we don't say it's likely that they had any intimacy, because he and she wasn't comfortable with one another, so we don't say that nature takes its course. Amar Rabba Bar Chana, Amar Reb Yochanan. Machloikis b'shiru'ua shenivala. The machloikis, when they sleep together in the Holiday Inn, where Beis Shammai says that you don't need a get, but Beis Hillel says you do need a get, is only where they actually saw them being intimate. So the only question is it l'shem znus or l'shem kedushin? The Beis Shammai Beis Shammai says Adamaisa bilas bilas nus. Beis Shammai says that a person will have a lustful encounter, and therefore you don't need a get. Beis Hillel said Yidden don't have lustful encounters. Beis Hillel and therefore a get is necessary. But if you didn't see them being intimate, so the Gemara says, how could you say that the Mishnah is talking about where we see that they were intimate? If the Mishnah is talking about where they see that she was intimate, what's the difference if she's a Nesua or an Arusa? Says the Gemara, Tanan, Omoidim and Eskarshim and Erison, we admit that if they divorced from only an Erison, they weren't married yet. Why? Because there we don't assume that they were intimate. Because he's not bold with her yet. But if we saw them being intimate, what's the difference? If we see them being intimate, so that really negates the possibility that our Mishnah is talking about where they saw them being intimate. So therefore, the Gemara scraps that pshat. Ella. Ella masnisan b'shaloyro shnevala. Our Mishnah is talking about where we didn't see them being intimate. So when, as we'll see shortly, when they are married, were previously married, there we say, according to Beis Hillel, that they probably were intimate. But Rabbi Yochanan, who says that it's talking about that we didn't see them being intimate, Rabbi Yochanan was not talking about our Mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan, the Amar Ki Haitana. Rabbi Yochanan was talking about Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. The Tanya Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, if we didn't see them being intimate, we don't have to worry about it. That's already a svek. Maybe they were intimate. If they were intimate, maybe it wasn't the shape of kedusha. Forget about that. Where we saw them being intimate. Where they saw them being intimate, still Beis Shammai says it's just a one-night stand, a lustful encounter. So another get is not needed. Beis Hillel says Yidden don't do things that way. Therefore, they made a shem kedushin, so it should be on the up and up, and therefore another get is allowed. Says the Gemara, but our Mishnah that's talking about where you didn't see them being intimate, what's the machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel? What are they arguing? Says the Gemara, there were witnesses that they were alone in room 208, but there were no witnesses of Bia. We don't assume right away, even by where they were previously married, we don't assume right away that they were intimate. Since they were already married and they were in a a room together, things took their natural course, and therefore you need a get. However, on Moedim and Eskashim and Erison, where there isn't things take their normal course because they weren't bold with each other yet, they were never together before. She'ein etzricha and get sheni. The kaven dein liba gaspa, since he's not bold with her. Lo yamrina, we don't say that it's an ansade that that because they were alone they got together. The problem is if you're saying that Rabbi Yochanan is saying not like our Mishnah, but like Reb Shimon ben Elazar, but our Mishnah is a Stam Mishnah, and Rabbi Yochanan always paskins like a Stam Mishnah. Omi Amar Rabbi Yochanan hachi, I Amar Rabbi Yochanan halacha is Stam Mishnah. Says the Gemara, Kimnul Masnisen, and we said the Mishnah is Bishaloi Ru'ah Shenevala, while he says like Reb Shimon ben Elazar that by Loi Ru'ah Shenevala there's no machlokes. Says the Gemara, Amarayim Ninu Alibad Rabbi Yochanan. It's taka two Amarayim on what Rabbi Yochanan's opinion is, whether he holds like a Stam Mishnah, or over here, whether he holds like Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Now, we're going to learn now something new about a specialized get. The specialized get is a get that's given to a kohen. A kohen gives to his wife, called the get kosher. Now, a get kosher is that, you see, the kohanim have a quarrelsome nature. Amcha kimerive kohen. And they, in a fit of anger, they might rashly give a get to their wife, and then there's no backsies, because the kohen can't take back a grusha. So in order to slow down the process until he cools off, we say that the get of a kohen, they have to write a few lines, then fold it over, sew it, and sign it. Then write a few more lines, fold it over, and sign it. And then a few more lines, and fold it over and sign it. It has to be at least 3 folds and 3 witnesses. Now, there could be 5 folds and 5 witnesses. The problem is, if let's say there's 5 folds and only 4 witnesses. So one of the folds don't have a witness. That's a get kerach. That's a bald get, and such a get is possible. So let's see the Mishnah inside. Kansa beget kerach. If Chatzkel the kohen sent away his wife with a get kerach, a bald get, and then she married Shmuel, and now we see that one of the folds were not signed. Teitei mizeh mizeh. She has to leave the second husband. She can't go back to the first husband. The kol hadrachim ha'elu ba. She doesn't have a ksuva from either one. She doesn't have blood. She doesn't have peiros. All the things that we said. Now, get kerach. In the event that, let's say, there's a 5th fold that needs a signature. Since it already has enough kosher signatures, hakol mashlim min olav. Anybody could be the 5th signator, even a Ganiv, who normally can't sign, and even an Evet Kanani, Divri Benanas. That's Yipanim Benanas. Rabbi Akiva says, not everybody, only a Karev. Ein mashlimin olav ela kroivim, because a Karev is eligible to testify somewhere else. Ela kroivim haru'uyin laheyed b'makom acher. They'll get kerach. So now the Mishnah dots the I's and crosses the T's. What's considered a get kerach? Kol sheksharav merubin me'edav. If there's more folds than signatures, that's a bald get. So the Gemara says, my time in the get kerach. Why if there's not, why did we make a get kosher? That I explained to you. But here, why if there's 5 folds and 4 signatures, why is that possible? It needs 3 signatures and 3 folds. It has that. So why if there's 5 folds and only 4 signatures is that possible? Gzeira mishum kulchem. Because we're worried that since there's 5 folds, the husband said, all of you sign. All 5 people, all of you sign. And then if he said all of you sign and only 4 sign, that's no good. Get kerach hakol mashlimah. A bald get, anyone could complete it. So now the Gemara says, I don't understand. What's the difference that Rabbi Kiva allows a korev, but he doesn't allow an eved or a ganav? Rabbi Kiva, eved my time alai, the asal l'meimah kosher leidus, because people might say, oh, if it's allowed over here, then an eved kanani is kosher leidus. So korev nami, we should worry about korev also, asal l'meimah kosher leidus. Ela eved hainu taima. You know why we're afraid that people will say, oh, he signed, he must have been freed, he must be a meyuchas. The dilma asila suke liyuchsin. So then a gazlan, the bar yuchsin who liskasha, then a gazlan should be able to be the extra witness. But Rabbi Kiva says only a karev. Allah tanan Rabbi Kiva ein mashlim alav alakreiv maruya lahed b'makamacher. Only relatives that could testify elsewhere. Karevin, relatives, yes. Gazlan loy, not thieves. Ella eved hainu taima. What's the reason of an eved? Da asi l'meimah shichrurei shacharei. People might say he must have been freed. Gazlan nami. People might say he must have mended his ways. Asi l'meimah tshuva, which is not true. He didn't mend his ways. Karev, but a relative. What's there to worry about? People are not going to say he's not a relative. Michael l'meimah karev. Kuli almi yadei de karev. Everybody knows he's a karev. There's nothing that they might say. So that Rabbi Kiva allows. Now, just getting underway on a beautiful Motzei Shabbos with so many Zoomers, Mark says, you can do 4. We're all I care. There goes the lights.
It was the Shabbos clock. I gotta turn it off.
Yeah, the Shabbos clock. It's really great to have everybody here on a wonderful Motzei Shabbos. Amar Rab Zeira, Amar Rabba Bar Sheilta, Amar Rav Hamnuna Saba, Amar Rav Ada Bar Ava. Isn't that something? The accuracy of our tradition. So Rab Zeira says in the name of Rabba Bar Sheilta, who says in the name of Rav Hamnuna the elder, who says in the name of Ada Bar Ava, get kerach, ksharav shiva. If its folds are 7, the Eid of Shisha, but it only has 6 Eidim. Shisha, it has 6 folds of Eid of Chamisha, and it only has 5 signatures. Chamisha, it has 5 folds of Eid of Arba, or Arba, it has 4 folds of Eid of Shloisha. Ad kan machloikis benanas Rabbi Kiva. There's a machloikis. The Bananas says the extra fold can be signed even by a gazlan or an eved, and Rabbi Kiva says only by a relative. Aval ksharav shloisha ve'eid of shnayim, but if it has 3 folds, the minimum, and 2 kosher witnesses, then even Bananas agrees that the 3rd witness could only be a karev. Divrei hakol ein mashlimin alav ela karev. Amalei Rab Zeira l'Rabba Bar Sheilta. So Rab Zeira said to Rabba Bar Sheilta, I don't understand. 2 is mandatory by a regular get, and 3 is mandatory by a get kosher. Mirtei. Kol shloisha b'mekusha, the 3 by a get kosher, is kikshnayim b'pashadami. It's like 2 by a regular get. So, mahosim karev, just like by the 2 by a regular get, it's not good a karev. Afachanami karev. So then the 3 by a get kosher should also not allow for a karev, because it's the basic. Amalei afledidi kashali. So he said to him, I also had the shaila. Ushielte Rav Hamnuna, and I asked Rav Hamnuna. Rav Hamnuna la'at Rav Ada Bar Ava, and Rav Hamnuna asked Rav Ada Bar Ava. V'amalei, and he said that's different, because the 3 is only the Rabbanan. The 3 by a get kosher is only the Rabbanan. Hanach l'shloishim b'mekusher the lav d'oraisa. Tani nami hachi. We learned likewise. Get kerech, a bald get, ksharav shiva of 8 of shisha. If it has 7 folds and only 6 witnesses, shisha 6 folds of 8 of chamisha and 5 witnesses. Chamisha 5 folds of 8 of arba and 4 witnesses. Arba ve'edav shloisha, 4 folds and 3 witnesses. Ad kan machlokes benanas Rabbi Kiva. According to benanas, the extra fold could be with an eved and a gazlan, while according to Rabbi Kiva, it could only be a karev. Hishma of eved benanasam havlad kosher. Rabbi Kiva Aimer havlad mamzer. Aval kshar of shloisha ve'edav shnayim. But if the 3 folds and only 2 witnesses, divrei hakol ein mashlimin olav ela karev. It could only be completed by a relative. Rav Yosef disagrees, but rather he says the 3rd one by a get kosher is like 2 by a get pashut, and Rav Yosef masnei kosher. The 3rd one has to be by a kosher witness. But Tanya karev. Rav Papa says amend it tani kosher. Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan says, even though we said that the last extra fold could be filled in by a karev, but we only allow 1 karev. So like if, let's say there's 7 folds and 5 have regular witnesses, you can't fill up the last 2 folds with relatives. Why? Because we're afraid when you come to authenticate it, and you'll authenticate it with 3 witnesses, you might take 2 kroivim and 1 kosher, and you won't be authenticating it with 2 kosher witnesses. Dilma asi l'kiyume betray kroivim b'chad kosher, and you'll be authenticating it without even having 2 kosher eidim. Amar Rav Ashi masnitza nami deka. We could imply this also from our Mishnah, because in our Mishnah, the Mishnah says always an example of only 1 missing fold. To kamedalek v'tani chad, 7 folds and 6 witnesses, 6 folds and 5 witnesses, 5 folds and 4 witnesses. So it only has you filling in 1 with the carve. Shma minah, that it could only be 1 fill-in and not 2 fill-ins. Shush. Have a wonderful time. Amar Abaya. See here, Abaya says a very interesting thing. Amar Abaya. Shma minah hai karev chosim, that the karev could sign in any position they want. They could be the first fold, the last fold, the middle fold. Hai karev chosim ibay bein betchila, could be in the beginning. Bein be'emtza, in the middle, bein be'seif. How do we know that? Because it doesn't say a spot. Mimai midoloi kavalei makam. Also, we could. Now, this is a little bit of a piece of Sherlock Holmes deduction. We could also show that we don't need, when we authenticate the shtar later on for a certification, we don't need to have 3 signatures in a row. Because if we would have 3 signatures in a row, then we would have a way to use a lot of kroivim. Because then we could say that the kroivim have to either sign in the beginning of the 3 set, in the middle of the 3 set, or in the end of the 3 set. So then, when you have 3 in a row, you surely would not have 2 kroivim. So says the Gemara, V'shma minah, mikol tlosa mekayminon. We could authenticate it from, have a great time. Mikol tlosa mekayminon. We could authenticate it from any of the 3. V'loi ba'inon ritzufin. You don't need to have 3 in a row. Di'isal kedaitach ba'inon ritzufin, because if you would be able to have 3 in a row, likvalei makom lahai karev, you could say that the kroivim could sign either the first of the 3, the middle of the 3, or the last of the 3, and then you could have 1 karev for each set. So then likvalei makom lahai karev, either betchila or be'emtza or b'seif, and then v'lich shebei tuvan, and you could have many kroivim. You could have 1 kroivim for each set of 3. Ki asa l'kamid Rabami, when they came before Rabami, Amalei, there's 1 fold that's extra, the 6th fold is extra. Say v'hishlam olav eved min hashuk, you could take an eved kanani, showing that he paskins like bananas. Haner lachazayrik, Hanu l'chazayrik. Now we change the camera for one more time.